BuyBotPro deep dive training webinar. If you haven't already seen me on YouTube or on TikTok or heard me in a podcast or seen me on one of these before, my name is Matt, and a very warm welcome to everyone who is joining me. There should be a link, I think, above me. I'm not sure if there is one that you can click on. And if you do that, I'll be able to see who it is that has commented. If you are leaving a comment, if you have a question about anything, and that is what these are all about. So what we are doing today is we're going to run through a series of videos, talk about everything BuyBotPro, going to watch a video about a certain feature, then we'll come back and I will happily answer any questions that anyone has to the best of my ability, and we'll discuss the feature that we looked at in the video. Now, I hope it's a lot better where you are. But right now where I am, it is really dark, dreary and rainy. It's been that way for the past week. So I am testing out this new light thingy that I bought the other day, and it does make quite a bit of difference. So this is the light where it's off. Let me just find the switch. There we go. That's it off. I mean, my other computer is on next to me because it's plugged into that in order to turn on. And this is it with the light on. Much better. But obviously we didn't come here to talk about a light that I'm testing out, but it does work brilliantly and makes for better videos and better webinars because you can actually see me. So enough about that. We're going to crack right on with the first BuyBotPro feature. So do you have any virtual assistants in your business? Did you know that you can get them to join in with you on BuyBotPro? So not only can they obviously source fee, that's what you pay them to do, but they can analyze the deals on BuyBotPro. You can add them to your BuyBotPro subscription. You get 5 license keys per subscription. You can monitor them in the VA manager, and that is what this video is all about. So we're going to watch a video all about the VA manager and the VA toolbox, that way you get a full understanding. If you don't have any VAs right now, but you're considering them in the future, there are some pointers for that as well. And at least you know that there are features within BuyBotPro that can help you out with virtual assistants when the time comes for you to hire some. So I'm going to shut up and I'm going to play the first video, and I'll join you again in a couple of minutes. Be taking a look at the VA toolbox and the VA manager sections of BuyBotPro. Now, it's super useful to be able to get your virtual assistant to work with you on the same software because things are going to be a lot more consistent across the board. They're able to analyze deals in depth, which is super useful. They're using one of the best deal analyzers around, and they are able to submit deals right through to you. And because they are following a set criteria, they're using BuyBotPro, you can be sure that most, if not all, of the deals that they send to you will be deals that you can actually try. Super useful to be able to get your virtual assistant to work with you on the same software because things are going to be a lot more consistent across the board. They're able to analyze deals in depth, which is super useful. They're using one of the best deal analyzers around, and they are able to submit deals right through to you. And because they are following a set criteria, they're using BuyBotPro, you can be sure that most, if not all, of the deals that they send to you will be deals that you can actually sell in your Amazon business. So let's go ahead and look at the VA manager section first, then we'll come back to the toolbox. So to access this, you need to scroll down to the VA toolbox and click on VA manager login. Now this will take you through to this section here. When you log into this for the first time, you need to make sure that you are using an email and password that only you know. Only you should have access to this section as the subscription holder. None of your VAs should be able to get into this. So right away, you have the dashboard section, so you get an overview of what is going on. You can see the total amount of deals submitted and by who, the total amount of work time each of your virtual assistants has worked, and it's color coded as to which one. So pink for Chris, yellow for Harry, and so forth. And you can see the latest deals that have been submitted to you, the latest screenshots that have been taken. We'll discuss all of these in a little bit more detail later on, as there are separate sections for these throughout the VA manager. Next up is the time logs. So you get an in-depth view into your virtual assistant's work times, when they started, when they finished, the amount of deals they submitted within that time, the amount of screenshots taken within that time, and the duration of time that they worked on that shift. You can filter by virtual assistant as well, so you can see who exactly has worked what one at a time, so you can keep a track of a particular virtual assistant and check up on what they're all doing. You can go to deals, where you can see all of the deals that have been submitted to you. Again, here you can filter by virtual assistant if you want a certain string of deals from a particular assistant. You can see the name of that VA. the title of the product that they found, the ASIN. You can go ahead and click on this, or indeed the Amazon link, to view this yourself and analyze yourself if you wish. You can see the buy price, sell price, and confidence score. You can see the date and time that this particular product was submitted to you. You can go ahead and remove it from the list by using the bin icon, or you can export that to your linked Google Sheet if you want it over there. Then let's go to the screenshot section. So this is a gallery of all of the screenshots that have been taken whilst your VAs have been working. Now they need to download a separate extension for this, as do you, in order for these to work. I'll show you that in a second. And what this is doing is it's letting you know what your virtual assistants are doing at any given time whilst they are working. So whilst your VAs are working, BuyBotPro will take random screenshots of what's going on their screen. So when you come here, you can make sure that your assistants are on task and doing what you're paying them to do. So you can flick through, you can sort by all time, today, yesterday, the last 7 days. You can filter by assistant as well. And if you need to delete any of these screenshots, you can tick them using the checkbox there and go ahead and remove. And then let's go to the virtual assistant section. Now the first part of this page is a link to that extension that I just mentioned. So you need to make sure that you download the VA monitoring add-on extension and that you get your virtual assistant to do the same. Please feel free to give them the link to that as well, so they are downloading the right extension. This is where you can set up your virtual assistants. So in order to add a new assistant, just click on this button here. You can enter in their name and email and then click on submit, and then it'll add them through to this section here. So you can see the name, email, the total amount of time that they've ever worked, the total amount of deals that they've ever submitted, the total amount of screenshots that have been taken, the last time that they submitted a deal. You can mark them as active, so you can edit this status here and mark them as active or inactive. If you do have a virtual assistant that no longer works for you, you can't exactly remove them from here. You can remove the device from the devices section, which I'll show you in a moment. But ultimately, what you need to do is reach out to the support team and get them to reset your license key. So they'll refresh the activations for you, meaning that it logs everyone out. And then they'll give you a new license key that you can use and you can distribute out to anyone that you want to be using your BuyBotPro. So if you have a virtual assistant that no longer works for you and you don't want them to access your BuyBotPro, all you need to do is reach out to the support team and they can help you with that. Now let's go over to the active devices. So this is what I just mentioned, where you can see all of the devices linked to your BuyBotPro subscription. You can give them names as well to make them easier to identify. You can remove them as well if you wish. And with your BuyBotPro subscription, you get 5 license activations, meaning that BuyBotPro can be used on up to 5 devices and can be used by up to 5 people at any one time. So this includes the app BuyBot Go as well. So just be careful with your activations. If you need any more than 5, you may want to consider purchasing another subscription. If you go ahead and do that, please make sure that you are using a different email address to the one that you originally signed up to BuyBotPro with. Then let's go to the BuyBotPro settings. So here is where you can enter in your BuyBotPro associated email and license key. It's really important that all of these details are correct. So please make sure that you've entered in the correct email and the full license key, and you've set the correct region as well. So the region is the side of BuyBotPro that you signed up to. So if you signed up to the UK side, please make sure that you set that to UK/Europe. If you signed up to the US side, please make sure it's set to US. If you have an issue with getting your virtual assistant to log into the VA Toolbox and it says that there isn't a user that exists under that email address, most of the time it will be because the details in here are incorrect. So please make sure that all of this information is right and submit that once you are done. You can also set your VA requirements in here. So this is the criteria they need to follow when they are analyzing deals. So it needs to meet all of these things in order to be submitted to you. So you can set your criteria here, the BSR, the ROI, the profit, the confidence score. And here are your settings. So this is where you can change your name, edit your email address. You can change your time zone as well. And this is where you can change your password. Once you do any of this, please don't forget to click on submit at the bottom so it saves those changes. You can log out using this button here in the corner. Now what you need to do with your virtual assistant is give them your BuyBotPro associated email address and full license keys. That way they can actually log in to the software itself. And then they need to come down to the VA Toolbox and enter in the email that you set for them in the virtual assistant section / their own email. And once they go ahead and do that, they need to click on save. That criteria that we set before will appear in here. And then once they begin work, they just need to click on start. So they need to then start analyzing the deals that they've sourced. Click on submit deal if it meets this criteria, and then that will get sent right through to you. The screenshots will be taken whilst the timer is active as well. You can see the amount of time that they are working right here. This will keep ticking away. And when they are finished with their shift, they just need to click on finish. And that is them done with their shift. So that is the VA Toolbox and VA Manager section of BuyBotPro. That is all part of your subscription at no extra cost. Definitely go ahead and check out the VA course as well if you are considering hiring a virtual assistant, or if you want to train them on how to use BuyBotPro and don't know how to do that yourself. The course is perfect for that. Let's go back to the webinar. So that was the VA Manager section and the VA Toolbox. If you want to get access to that course, that is over in the VA Manager section on the dashboard. It's a little button in the top right corner. Now, something that is really important to note from that video, or hello, by the way, whoever has said that. I can't see who that is exactly, but hello to you. Yes, so if you are setting up a virtual assistant for the first time, you've set up their email correct, you've added them in, they're active, you've given them your full email and license key, so they're in BuyBotPro, they've gone to the VA Toolbox, they've tried to sign in and they get an error. I think it says something along the lines of there's no user that exists under this email. Most of the time, as I said in that video, it is because you haven't got the full BuyBotPro associated email and license key entered into your virtual assistant manager settings. Please make sure that is in there and that the region is correct. So as I say, the region is the side of BuyBotPro that you signed up to. So if you went ahead and signed up to the UK side by clicking on the UK flag, you need to set the region to UK/EU. And if you sign up to the US side, you've clicked on the US flag, please set it to US, and then everything will be sorted and your virtual assistant can then start working, analyzing deals and submitting those deals to you. Now, that is an amazing feature that you get all of that as part of your BuyBotPro plan. As I've said before in that video, please remember that you get 5 license activations for your BuyBotPro subscription. That includes BuyBotGo as well on the app. So just be careful who you give the login to. Just be careful what devices you're using. If you do get into a bit of a pickle whereby you can't log in because the max device activations warning appears, please feel free to reach out to the support team. We can reset your activations for you and give you the instructions to sort this out for yourself if you ever come across that particular issue. So it is definitely something that can be sorted out. But all in all, what a useful feature. Thank you, BuyBotPro. So let's move on to the next video. If you have any questions, please feel free to throw them my way and I'll try my very best to answer them. And also, if you weren't here at the very start, as I said earlier, it has been really dark and dreary this past week in the UK. Well, in my bit of the UK at least. Hopefully it's better where you are. And because it was so dark, I'm trying out this new light thing for the very first time. And basically if I turn that off, it looks like that. Like, it's not great. I mean, my other computer's on because that's what makes the light work. So that is making it a little bit brighter than what it was, but that is so much better. So I'm going to use that from now on whenever it is a dark, dreary day like today. So just a little cool thing. I'm really excited about that. But let's move on to the next feature, which is Google Sheets. I'm going to let the video do the talking. So I'll play that now and we'll come back in a couple of minutes and discuss the feature. Hey, so I'm going to be talking Google Sheets. Now, why are they important? Just the same as any other spreadsheet, you can see lots of information all in one place. Now, how Google Sheets works with BuyBotPro is going to be really, really useful for you as a seller. So I'm going to show you how to link this up to BuyBotPro and explain how to use it. Now, with the Google Sheet, you need to make sure that you are logged into the same Google account that you use for Google Chrome. So you can double check that by looking at the icons in the top right here and just make sure that they're both the same. So that way you are ensuring that this will actually work when you go to link that up with BuyBotPro. This is an example spreadsheet of what you can expect to see when the Google export is completed. So you get the item that you've been analyzing with all of the useful information that BuyBotPro has worked out for it. Now, one thing to bear in mind, you need to make sure that you create a field where you can enter in all of the titles for each column so that way you know which column is which. So product name, ASIN, category, and so forth. You need to create this yourself. And if you're confused as to which column is which, you can double check the cells in the BuyBotPro settings and see which piece of information is going into which cells. So that way you know how to title them. So this is really, really useful because we get all of this useful information about all of these products, and you can create a Google sheet for whatever you like. So it could be products that you want to keep an eye on and check on at a later date. It could even be a list of products that you know definitely aren't going to work out for you in your business, a list of successful products that you know work out. It could be where you plan ahead, which is really, really important as an Amazon seller. Maybe you have a list of items that you're going to sell in Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, items that do well all year round. You can make as many different Google Sheets as you like because you can link up as many as you like to BuyBotPro. So what you need to do once you have created your sheet is then take the URL, so copy that, come to BuyBotPro, then to the settings. Then what you need to do is scroll down to the Google Sheets section, paste in the URL into the Google Sheets ID, or simply just take the ID from the URL. But if you enter in the URL and then once you change to another field, it's going to filter out that ID for me. And then you can name the sheet as well. So let's give that a name. You can then scroll across and see things like the column settings. So let's go ahead and click on customize, and that's where you can see which bit of information is going to go into which cell. If you want to rearrange the order, then you can. You just need to type in the cell that you want that bit of information to go into. So you might want to switch around the ASIN and product names. That might go into B, that might go into A. Just make sure that you don't duplicate the cells, so don't enter in D, for example, for both buy price and sell price. Make sure that every single one is different. So you can customize how exactly you want that to go. And if you do change anything, just make sure that you click OK at the bottom. And then you can opt for BuyBotPro to auto export. So if you turn on this toggle, as soon as you've analyzed something, that's going to go straight to your Google Sheet. If you turn it off, then you will need to manually do this yourself. So it's up to you whichever way you prefer. You might want to go ahead and analyze it before you send it to your sheet, or you might just want to go ahead and send it to your sheet right away. You've also got the option to remove the sheet as well by clicking on this red button here. Once you've set everything up, make sure that you go to the bottom of BuyBotPro and click Save and Sync. That way the software is going to refresh and take all of this information into account and update itself. So let's go ahead and analyze this product. Let's say I found it for £10. Let's go ahead and analyze. We get all of those useful BuyBotPro results. Go down to the export data section here and we can see the sheet that we just linked up. Now the source URL field is optional and completely up to you. So you can enter in the source URL, so where you found the particular product. So you might have looked on Argos or Walmart. You take the URL for the item page, paste that in there, and that can be an additional piece of information that gets added into the export. So once you've analyzed this, you think, yes, I like this to be in my sheet, just go ahead and click on the sheet that you want to send it to. So I'm going to click on webinar, copy to webinar. So that is this sheet here. And we can see is added it at the bottom of the sheet with all of that information. So the ASIN, the buy price, sell price, total fees, profit, and so forth. This is really, really useful stuff. And let's say this was a sheet where we were going to consider these items at a later date. Maybe something isn't quite working out about them. Maybe it's just that the BSR wasn't quite within our target range. Maybe we aren't eligible to sell the item right now, but we're going to get engaged in that category and we will be eligible to sell. This is where the dates come in really, really handy, because we can check up on these dates and then say, yes, this one came in on this date, so I'm going to check up on this. And then you can choose how often you're going to check this sheet and go ahead and reanalyze these items, because it would be a shame to lose something that very nearly makes the cut. So this is where the Google Sheets come in really, really handy. It helps you plan, it helps you keep track of everything you're analyzing. And all in all, it's just a great feature. So hopefully you go ahead and give that a try if you haven't done so already. Back to the webinar. So that was Google Sheets. That is such an amazing feature, because like I said at the end of that video, you no longer have to analyze something and go, oh, it doesn't work out. It very, very nearly made it, but right now it's just a little bit out of my profit goal. Well, add that to your Google Sheet and check up on it at a later date. Maybe you can get it for a better price. Maybe you can sell it for a higher price, and boom, more profit. You've remembered the item instead of losing it forever, instead of going, oh, well, it doesn't quite work out. It doesn't quite make the cut. So I'm just going to try and remember it, or completely, wipe that away. Not going to go for it. Add that to your Google Sheet. Check back up on it, and that can be the golden item for your business. And you might have lost out on that if you didn't add that to Google Sheet. The amazing part about that as well is the fact that you can add as many Google Sheets as you want to BuyBotPro. So anything that you can think of, any reason why you'd need a particular Google sheet, go ahead and create it, add that to BuyBotPro, and boom, it's another option in the software. So definitely go ahead and try that if you haven't done so already. A couple of things to definitely make sure of before you go ahead and try and exporting anything. If you get any errors or anything like that, like the couldn't get the token error, please just make sure that you are using the same Google account for creating that Google sheet that you use for Google Chrome as well. They should both be the same. You can check up on the little logo in the top right corner, I think it appears in. Yeah, just make sure that they're both the same. That way there'll be no errors. And also check on the cells as well. If you are customizing anything, please make sure that you don't use the same cell for multiple things. Otherwise, things might get a little bit tricky and you'll most likely get an error. And also remember as well, when you do make your spreadsheet, to add the headers at the top, it won't do that for you. So if you want a reminder of where your headers are going to be in terms of cells, check up on that customize option and you can see, oh yeah, buy prices in cell D and so forth. So I'm going to put this header there, etc. So that's really useful. I can't see that we have any questions for now. So we're going to move on to the next video, which is the multi-market analyzer. That does link on to the video that comes afterwards. But I'm going to shut up, play the video, and we'll come back in a couple of minutes. So here's the next video. Hey, you're going to be taking a look at the multi-market analyzer, which is going to help you gauge how well the item is performing in other marketplaces. And it's going to save you bundles of time, because it means that with this brief insight here, you can then decide which marketplaces you want to do a full analysis in. And it will save you time because it means you can roll out the marketplaces that it doesn't look like it's doing so great in, and you can focus on the ones that you may want to consider selling in. So to get this information, you need to make sure that you've analyzed the product. You also need to make sure that you've entered in a correct address in the top left of Amazon here, so that way you can get these results. Now it shows you the marketplaces here. If you hover over the flag, it gives you a keeper chart. You can see the BSR for the item, and as we can see, it seems to be doing a lot better in France. In terms of BSR, we can see the buy box price for the item as well, and it's color coded as to who currently has the buy box. So just the same as the competition analysis, you have gray for merchant fulfilled and orange for Amazon. If you saw green, that's for an FBA seller, and if it's blue, it's merchant fulfilled prime. You can also see how much profit you would make if you were to sell for this price as well. In the other marketplaces, of course, are taken into account any additional fees for selling into another marketplace. It also shows us the ROI that we would achieve by selling at that price in this marketplace, and the break even as well. Now, where it's blank, this is nothing to worry about. This is just where the item might not be selling in that marketplace, or it needs us to be in this marketplace in order to get these results. So we are on .co.uk right now, so we've got the results for all of the European marketplaces here. And of course, if we want to check this out on the US, we need to head over to amazon.com, make sure that we've entered in a correct address in the top left of Amazon, and then we can go from there. We also get an exchange rate at the bottom as well. So BuyBotPro uses dozens of data sources from financial institutions and banks, including the European Central Bank. Rates are updated hourly. Now, if we click on any of these here, it will take us to the item within this particular marketplace, and then we can go ahead and do a full analysis. So this is going to save us a bit extra time. It takes us right to the item on the Amazon marketplace that we were checking out. So of course we can go ahead and do a full analysis, and of course we're going to get all of those useful results from BuyBotPro as per usual. But the multi-market analyzer is super useful for getting that insight into these other marketplaces. And hey, even if we aren't selling in a particular marketplace right now, maybe that's something that we're going to expand to in the future with our Amazon business. It gives us a nice bit of reassurance that, you know, this item would also sell well in this marketplace. So at some point we can look to sell it in, say, France or Germany or wherever else. So this multi-market analyzer is amazing. Once we've had a look at things like the IOSS section as well, this can give us a bit more insight into things like the VAT rates in those countries as well, so we can understand how much profit we are going to be making by selling in that particular marketplace. But that's a multi-market analyzer. Back to the webinar. Yep, so it's just a handy little table, motorbike. So that's just a handy little table to help you gauge how well an item is selling in another marketplace, because you might be currently selling in one marketplace, you might sell it in multiple, and you're only planning to sell it in one particular marketplace. But that is just a way that you can quickly check up on how well the item is performing in different marketplaces, because as I said in the video, it might be worth selling it in another marketplace instead, or you can do it in both. It's completely up to you as the seller, but if you are choosing one marketplace, it can be really handy to check up on the other ones just to see if you might be better off selling in one of those other marketplaces. So it's fairly self-explanatory, that table. And if you haven't guessed it already from that video, we are now going to be looking at the IOSS section, which links in very, very nicely with this feature. So I'm going to go ahead and play that video, and I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Hey, we're going to be taking a look at the IOSS section. Now that stands for the International One-Stop Shop. What this is going to do is it's going to make you aware of VAT rates in European countries. So that way you know exactly what is going on and you're not going in completely blind if you were to sell into one of these countries. Now this section is mostly related to UK sellers selling out into Europe. So let's go ahead and read the tooltip. This feature is for UK sellers selling products to EU customers that are under the value of €150. BuyBotPro will work out the amount of VAT Amazon will deduct and pay on your behalf, along with the profit and ROI after these deductions have been made. So if you happen to be a US seller, you can probably minimize this section or turn it off in the section customizer at the top of BuyBotPro. But if you're a UK seller selling into European countries, this is really important. So you have a list of the European countries here with the VAT rate next to them. You can then see how much this is exactly, so how much is going to be taken from you. You get your base price there as well. And once this has been taken off, this is how much profit you're going to make by selling into this particular country. And you can also see the ROI as well. Now, this is super important because if you weren't aware of things like this and you go ahead and sell into, say, Denmark, and you aren't aware of that 25% VAT, you're not aware of how much is going to be taken from you, then you might end up selling at a loss. It can completely change how much profit you're going to make on a deal. It can completely change how well it's going to work out for you. And you do not want to be selling at a loss. So it's important not to be going in blind and to be aware of this information. Now, if you come to your settings in BuyBotPro, you will have noticed the IOSS settings here. So you can customize what appears on the table. Now, let's say the Czech Republic is of no interest to you because you don't sell into that country. You can turn that off and it won't show that in the table. If there is a particular country that you want to add into this table and you know the VAT rate, you can add that in using the plus icon here. Enter in the country name and the VAT rate. You can toggle that on, and you can also remove it as well using the cross icon here. So that is an option for you. Just click on OK once you've made any of those changes. Don't forget to save and sync those settings as well. That way BuyBotPro will refresh and take that information into account. But the IOSS section is super useful for making you aware of these things. If you are looking at another country and you think, Germany looks very doable, how is the item performing within this country? You can then use this to go to the multi-market analyzer and check out a little bit more about how the item is doing in this marketplace. And then we can go ahead, click on that marketplace, go to the item within that marketplace and do a full analysis. So we get a really good insight into these other marketplaces as well and understand how well the item is performing and what exactly that's going to mean for us as the seller with the IOSS section and the multi-market analyzer. Hopefully this video helps. Back to the webinar. Yep, so that was IOSS. That links really, really nicely into the multi-market analyzer. It's all about looking at these other countries, at these other marketplaces, understanding what is going on in those other marketplaces and what that is going to mean for us as the seller. Now, imagine BuyBotPro without the IOSS. I mean, if you're a US seller, then you might be able to. But if you're a UK seller and you're selling into EU countries, I mean, imagine not being aware of these things and you go ahead and sell into, I don't know, Germany or wherever else, France, any of those countries from that table, and you're not aware of those VAT rates and what exactly is going to be taken from you, and you end up selling at a loss. It's like such a nasty shock if that came back to you and you found that you were selling at a loss or for a lot less than you thought you would. It's just going to suck big time. So the IOSS section, super handy. You're aware of everything before you go ahead and buy the item, before you go ahead and sell into that particular marketplace. So there's still no questions. So we're going to move on to the final video, which is all about the BSR chart, which is located just underneath the main sales chart. And it is definitely something to consider and take a look at whenever you do a deal analysis. And this video is going to explain how important it is. So this is the final video, and I'll catch you afterwards. Video we're going to be taking a look at the subcategory BSR chart and discussing why it's important. Now let's look up a random product. So in this case I've looked at blenders, and just as a side note, this is where the quick look feature comes in really handy because it gives me a brief insight into every item in the search results. And just very quickly, let's take a look at the BSR, for example. 644 2026 135, that looks really good, and there's a couple of competitors on the listing. So let's go ahead and take a look at this item in a bit more detail. So BuyBotPro is going to load up, and then we just need to analyze the product to get the result. So let's say we found this for 20, analyze, and BuyBotPro gives us all of those useful analysis results. Now let's scroll down to the BSR values chart. Now within every category you have a subcategory as well, and it's really important to pay attention to this chart because something might be performing very well overall with the main category BSR, and then with the subcategory BSR it might not be the best item in home and kitchen, or in terms of blenders it might be at the bottom of the blenders scale. But this is what this chart can clarify for us. So overall it looks like it has a good BSR for the main category. So let's take a look at that. Green for the main category, 330, 426. So it is within the top percentage of the home and kitchen category. So we can see that is also reflected in home and kitchen as well. So the BSR is matching up. And then we can see in the subcategory of mini blenders is consistently stayed at number one, number two, number one throughout. So this item is actually the best mini blender, and it seems to stay that way over the course of time that we're looking at. So right now we're looking at 90 days, but we can change that to 180, 365, or for all times since the item was first ever listed on Amazon. And just the same as the main chart, when we hover over anything we get a little breakdown of what exactly was going on. So we can see when it was first ever listed back in 2017, 2018, the BSR was at somewhere around 7,449. But since then it seems to have grown in popularity, and it stayed within the top percentage of the mini blender category for a very, very, very long time. And this is why the BSR chart is really useful, so we can get complete reassurance about the item that we're looking at. So yes, it's doing well in home and kitchen, and it is also the best mini blender out there to go for. And then with the rest of the results in BuyBotPro, we can go ahead and make our decision. But on the flip side, it might have been good in home and kitchen, or appeared that way at least, and then we go ahead and look at the subcategory, and it might have been at the bottom of the pile in terms of mini blenders. So there may have been other ones that we might want to look at before we go ahead and make a decision about which mini blender we're going to buy. But I've said the word blender a lot. That brings me to the end of this video. Back to the webinar. And I definitely did say the word blender a lot. But part of that was probably because of the excitement. I was looking for a random example to use for that video, and I just happened to type in blenders and just clicked on one that looked good, as you saw in that video. And I didn't realize that I'd come across the best mini blender on Amazon. Like, wow. But that is a great example of why the subcategory BSR is just as useful as the overall BSR. Let's give you another scenario. So let's say you're looking at Lego sets to sell, and you come across two that are like quite close, and you're thinking, I can only go for one. Which one do I go for? That is where the subcategory BSR can actually help you out. So if everything else looks great, like the profit, the overall BSR and so forth, but you can only go for one, take a look at that subcategory BSR, because one set might be slightly above the other, and that's how you make your decision. So it is such a useful table, and you can see if it consistently remains a good blender, a good Lego set, and it doesn't go towards the bottom of that subcategory. So a good overall BSR and a good subcategory BSR, you've got yourself a winning item. So it is such a useful feature, such an important thing to be aware of before you go ahead and purchase anything. So that brings me to the end of this BuyBotPro deep dive training webinar. Hopefully this has given you a ton of help. Hopefully it's helped you understand more about BuyBotPro and the features that it has, therefore helping you out with your deal analysis. If you need any further help beyond today, please feel free to reach out to the 24/7 support team at info@buybotpro.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel as well. There are new videos weekly. Provided that everything has gone well with the recording of this webinar, this should be going up on YouTube very, very soon. So if you want to watch this all over again, please feel free. Beyond that, check out the TikToks, check out the podcasts. There is so much help out there for you should you need it. And yeah, Hopefully you've learned a lot from this webinar. Thank you very much for your time and for joining me today. I'll see you again next month. And if you have Profit Protector Pro, I will see you in 2 weeks as that deep dive training webinar will be taking place over in that Facebook group in 2 weeks' time. So don't miss it. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time.